and Rob McGregor welcome you to a place where all kinds of phenomena flourish. Voices whisper ancient secrets, signs and symbols are abundant. UFOs, ETs, ghosts, and even the dead move about freely. Here we meet authors, researchers, and investigators of the mysterious, the strange, and of the inexplicable anomalies that surround us. Step out of the everyday world and take a journey into the mystical underground.
If y'all ready, in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Trish McGregor.
And Rob McGregor.
And our producer and tech magician, John Posey. You can go to themysticalunderground.com, where we make regular blog posts and where you can find out about our books. Among them are Phenomena, Harnessing Your Psychic Abilities, The Secrets of Spirit Communication, Sensing the Future, and Aliens in the Backyard. Trish's latest novel is White Crows, and Rob has recently completed releasing the audio edition of Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. Coming out later this month is our new book, The Shift, Reports from the Mystical Underground, in which we explore the ongoing shift in awareness of billions of people who recognize that in spite of what we see in our daily world, we're all energetically entangled and at a deeper level of consciousness, and we are in the process of shifting to a higher vibrational state, possibly an evolutionary state. We'll see.
Okay, our guest today is Candice Sanderson, who lives in Naples, Florida. Her life changed in a 10-minute period in August 2013 when she began to receive information from messengers from otherworldly sources. When her training as a psychologist failed to explain these events, she reluctantly followed the breadcrumbs down a path which resulted in extraordinary adventures into the unknown. Candice first appeared with us on the Mystical Underground in 2020 when we talked about her first book, The Reluctant Messenger. And we talked to her in February of this year, 2022, about The Reluctant Messenger Returns, that chronicles her expedition across the vast expanse of universal consciousness that led to new truths about life that she thought she had known so well. Her new series, From the Reluctant Messenger, highlights some of her more memorable explorations into other dimensional spaces. The most recent one, called Close Encounters, takes a new, unexpected turn for Candice. And finally, links to her YouTube channel and other social media platforms can be found on her website, CandiceSanderson.com. Welcome, Candice. I got it out.
You did it, Rob.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Oh, Rob and Trish, thank you so much for having me back. It's so good to be back in a normal situation right now.
Well, tell us about this hurricane that you were in the middle of in Naples.
Oh my goodness. Luckily, I had moved a half a mile inland because I live on the coast, but I moved a half a mile inland to my daughter's house, and that made all the difference. Now, I have lived in my condo for over 30 years, and we've had hurricanes before, but we've never had a storm surge like what we had with Hurricane Ian. It came in at high tide, and the Gulf of Mexico just crashed over our seawall. It filled the entire lower garage with over 6 feet of water. Luckily, I moved my car to the upper garage. It broke through the building and flooded the entire first floor, and it went onto the street. Now, across the street from me are other condos that are on the bay. The same thing happened at the bay. But bottom line is the street became a river. And there were cars that floated away from under carports. We still have a couple cars lodged on top of the hedges in front of my building.
Jeez.
In fact, the other day when I was coming over the little bridge to, come to my condo, because I'm still staying at my daughter's house, we saw one car and it's perched on top of a boat in the bay.
Boy.
But things are getting back to normal. As much as they can be.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking.
Now, does your daughter also live in Naples? Is that
Yes, she lives in Naples, but she's a half a mile inland from where I am, and her elevation is higher. So we were without electricity for about 5 days, but she didn't have any flooding, thank goodness.
Oh, that's good.
I was watching some of the coverage, and they were in reporters were in Naples, and he said, "Oh, my car's not here anymore. It floated away." So
yeah,
I guess
it's crazy.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So, did the guides give you any warning of your close encounters with this catastrophe? Did you have any sense of something happening?
Well, on the surface, I don't think I had any advance warning.
Mm-hmm.
But I did evacuate my apartment, just by going to my daughter's home.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never done that in the last 30 years. That storm track with Ian was predicted to hit closer to Tampa.
Right.
And then as it moved closer back toward us, we did not get the evacuation notices that we typically do. Yet I still evacuated. So was that like my guides gently nudging me to pay attention to common sense? Maybe. But since then, as I'm trying to navigate this post-Ian period in my life, I am without a doubt feeling the guidance, especially from my angels. Now, let me share a couple of situations, a couple examples. When the roads cleared enough for us to drive, my son-in-law and daughter, we left the kids at home, came to my apartment. It was a couple of days after the hurricane. And there in my living room, I had a butterfly habitat that I'd moved in from my balcony. And I had a chrysalis that was supposed to hatch the following week. But there he was. I used my flashlight because the hurricane shutters are down. Everything's completely dark. And there's a butterfly, a monarch butterfly.
So cool.
Yeah. And Trish, I had no choice. I had to name him Ian.
Yeah, really.
But the symbolism didn't escape me. It's like during the chaos of a hurricane, he transformed into a beautiful butterfly. We took the habitat, it's just a big net cage, and we took it to my daughter's house, and we let my granddaughters, ages 6 and 10, watch Ian as he flew away. But it was just a little miracle, and it added to some brightness of the day. Yeah. But I saw this specifically as a sign from guidance. Mm-hmm. This butterfly represents a new world, a new life,
new birth.
And if you ever watched a caterpillar change, I had not, but change from caterpillar to chrysalis and then emerge as a butterfly, it's an amazing transformation. They go from formless to chaos, and it just becomes form and freedom. It was just a beautiful symbol.
Where did you release him?
I took him to my daughter's house, and just in their driveway, when the girls came back from the babysitters, because we did not want them seeing the damage at my place. Mm-hmm. We opened it up, you unzipped it, and he just
so great.
Came out and fluttered away. It was beautiful.
Nice.
It was beautiful. But I started getting lessons from my messengers and from the angels after the storm. I'm learning about resilience. I did not know I was a resilient person, but I'm finding out I am. I'm learning about gratitude, which I did know, but I had to seek that out. But what I really like is I've had to find a new flow, a new balance. Living 5 days without electricity, we started going to sleep when the sun set. No longer clock time. We rose when the sun rose. And it was this beautiful pattern to actually slip into. And I realized this is a valuable lesson for me. When you can't control something, just let go. Slip into the flow that nature brings automatically. Don't fight against the tide. Go with the flow.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When you get out of your ordinary patterns, things happen, because you're looking at things in a different way, and messages come through in a different way.
After Wilma, we spent 10 days without power. So, it's not fun, but you have to you're right. You have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right. What else can you do?
Yeah.
Now, I had, may I share just a couple of other things that happened?
Sure. Yeah.
Once I was able to get my car and then I could drive back over to my condo, it's like, yes. But I woke up one morning and I looked, and I have a relatively new podcast, and I have my podcast automatically set, like at the first of the month, I set it to automatically once a week, produce something. And I have no idea what's coming up this week. I wait to see. Well, like 3 days after the storm, guess what the episode was that was released? It's called Angels Watching Over You.
That's good.
And it's about a team of angels that intervene in our lives. And I thought this was a perfect sign from my angels that it was released right after Hurricane Ian.
So
now,
you had.
I'm smiling, but I'm smiling over this coincidental podcast.
Yeah.
I get in my car, Rob, to go to my condo, and I ask for a sign from my angels. What is the first car that pulls in front of me but a plumbing van called Charlie's Angels?
Oh my God.
All right.
That's a great synchronicity.
Trish, on the back of the sign, it says, "Nothing stops an angel."
Wow, that is great.
And it was perfect. So although those angels and guides may not have forewarned me, maybe this is something I needed to learn and go through, I can feel their guidance every step of the way in this aftermath.
Candice, could I'm doing a book called Mind-Blowing Synchronicities. I think that angel thing qualifies. Could I use that in the book? It's really terrific.
Absolutely.
Charlie's Angels.
And I love the word, synchronicity and coincidence, because coincidence, that root word is coincide.
Right.
So a coincidence means it coincides with your life's purpose and with your connection to angels. And it was a beautiful coincidence. Of course, you may use that.
Okay, thank you. That's a great one.
So you had a close encounter with Ian, but you also had an experience at a workshop earlier this year when the messengers or new messengers showed up, revealing themselves as apparently as alien beings. So I'm wondering, did you have much interest in aliens before that experience? Had you read many books on the subject?
Well, explain too, this happened at the Monroe Institute, right?
Yes.
Which basically studies the nature of consciousness.
Yes, it does. But Rob, to answer your question, it's no and no. I've had like zero interest in aliens. I mean, I wrote the short book about my experience, UFOs. I didn't even know that UFOs are now called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. It's so new to me. Yeah, of course, I've heard stories about, aliens, but I don't own any books about them. And I actually don't remember ever reading a book about them. Now, let me tell you about the movies. I've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I've seen E.T. where he's phoning home, Sigourney Weaver's movie Alien, and Contact with Jodie Foster. But that's about it. I didn't have any interest in ETs. If anything, I felt a little, well, I don't want to say fearful. That's too strong of a word, but I felt a little hesitant about them. It's like, I just didn't have any desire whatsoever to make any kind of connection. It's like, no, thank you.
So you've never seen any UFOs, anything in the sky, or any
nope.
sense of friend? Okay, yeah. Well, tell us.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I haven't seen any, but nor have I looked for any. It's like, that stuff, it just seems so far out there. Now, realize me, someone who was trained as a psychologist, who's now channeling non-physical entities. So if it feels strange to me, it's pretty strange. But Trish, you're right. When I wrote the book, I did not use the name of the institute in the book, but I was at Monroe Institute in Virginia, and I was taking a class that, on first glance, it didn't seem like it was related. It was a class called NDE, near-death experience
Uh-huh.
spectrum. So, we were, well, first of all, Monroe Institute uses sound-based technology. They use something that's actually called Monroe Sound Science. It's a combination of binaural beats and other, sound technology.
It's the HemiSync, right?
Well, it's not HemiSync. It's an upgrade from that. HemiSync is binaural beats. So they use the binaural beats, but they layer it with other sound-based technology. So this is a relatively new,
right?
They're always improving. But as a participant, I always say this is a lazy person's way to meditate. All you have to do is put on those big headphones, kick back, close your eyes, and that's it, because the frequencies take you where you need to go. Now, Monroe, of course, they're known for, helping people have out-of-body experiences. But here I am at near-death spectrum, and we're going to be put into those frequencies where you're with those that are out of body. So now I can understand why it would have come to me, why this experience happened. But the program was not designed to meet ETs. And I'm really glad it wasn't, because otherwise I would have thought, oh, you just made this up. It was wishful thinking. But it happened on the very first full day of the program. We were having what's called a free flow meditation. So there's no verbal guidance. We go to our rooms. We're just relaxing. Immediately, I start getting a message. That's what I do. That's not new to me. So I grab my iPhone. I hit record, because I want to record what's happening in real time. That way I don't have to remember it. I started getting a channeled message, and it sounded like the muses within, who were like some of the first messengers that I had. Very beautiful prose, very poetic, like everything is energy. It's the breath of the flower as she whispers in the wind, the current of an eagle as she glides through the sky. It's just gorgeous. And then, boom, it changed.
Now, do you speak into your phone as you're getting these messages?
Yes, absolutely, because it's like dictation. I hear air quote, hear the words. And if I make a mistake, they'll say, correct that. They tell me how to end a sentence, when to start a new paragraph. I mean, it's really easy for me.
That's great.
I know. I don't have to do any work other than record it. But you know what? That just sounds so weird, because as a psychologist, I didn't believe in this. If you couldn't measure something with your physical senses, it didn't exist. And then now I'm in this totally different world. But all of a sudden, as I'm getting this message, everything changes. You can feel it with the energy. It's not just the wording, but it's like, oh, something's going on here. And I knew it was a new messenger. And the next words that came out were, all sensors are open and prepared for you to receive the data from other sources.
Wow.
So it comes with a pattern that's very different. The words are very different. And it's like, okay, we're just going to step back and observe, see what happens. Then I'm recording what's going on, and I'm actually like bilocating, in a sense, because there's the observer that's watching everything. And then there's me also as the experiencer. And I found myself slipping into what I can only describe as a personal, small flying machine. It molded to me, to my physical form. It's like slipping on a glove, a buttery, soft leather glove. It's tight, but it's comfortable. And this aircraft or whatever was made just for me. And then I felt and actually could see electrical current coming from the aircraft into my body, pouring through my cells. And there were like sparks that flickered and sputtered like an electrical short. And when you fry an electrical circuit unintentionally, plug something in the wrong way, and you get that ozone smell, I actually smelled that ozone. But my physical body just like melted and liquefied oh my goodness, into the skin of the machine. I'm just now getting this. This is just like what happens with the caterpillar when it becomes a
Exactly.
It liquefies. I just now thought
That's
of that
incredible.
I've got cold chills now. Before it transforms into this butterfly, but there's no boundary now between me and the machine. We are one.
So do you think
And
do you think this craft itself was a conscious being? Or a vehicle?
Yeah, conscious being. It was an intelligence.
Okay.
And I became part of it. So we were one. So yes, it would be conscious.
Like AI.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
With the beating heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
An
Interesting.
AI who's human.
Yeah.
Right. So the messengers then identified themselves. They gave a little message and they said, we are from a galactic council of light. And I'm thinking, And then they said they're adjusting their frequency so they can communicate better with me. Now, I want you to try to picture what I'm going to describe. First of all, I'm lying down in my bed. I'm on my back. My arms are to my side. Two humongous waves of energy rush through me at the same time. One begins at my shoulders. It rushes down my arms through my hands. And at the same time, energy begins at my hips, they shoot down my legs and out my feet. So imagine looking down at me with my arms to my side. I did not realize this in real time because I'm not analyzing. All I'm doing is recording. When I got home and transcribed my dictation, I realized, all right, first of all, my body is now a personal aircraft. And that power shooting down my limbs and out my arms and legs, I had become a rocket. I was literally launching into another dimension. Wow. I didn't realize it at the time. But then I ended up, I'm in this new space. I can't see, and then it clears. Still lying on my back. I look from side to side. There are two humanoid shapes, 4 beings, 2 on each side of me. Now, as a psychologist,
you saw this you saw this visually.
I am in a meditative state. And when I'm in a meditative state, I have visions that are often more real than 3D.
Okay.
But I am seeing this in my meditative state, which means through my energy body.
Right.
I started scanning them, and as a psychologist, document. And I'm into the phone. I'm saying green skin, thin bodies, no nails on the rounded tips of their long fingers, large heads resting on slender necks, no mouth. There were like gill-like features on the sides of their head, and of course those almond-shaped eyes.
What's skin color?
No
Green.
pupils. Green.
Green.
Oh, what's so odd, I was not afraid. Now, part of that's my training as a psychologist. Don't react, simply observe and document. Then the next thing, these beings start waving slowly back and forth while watching me. And I'm thinking, that's really weird. And then I got my hands and put them above my head. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? And then I realized I am doing the same thing, waving back and forth. Now, just like I figured out my body was like a rocket, I had an aha moment once I got home and transcribed that. And oh my goodness, here we go again. I was extracting myself from the aircraft, just like a butterfly from the chrysalis.
Wow.
I am moving at their direction away from that aircraft. It's like the real me was slipping out of this cocoon. And then that's when they started, I don't know, really communicating with me telepathically. Now that I was out of my shell, I could understand their communications better.
Yeah. So, Candice, where was the space where this took place? I mean, they weren't in your room, but you were with them somewhere else. But so, go ahead. So were you like in an out-of-body state then? Because you are at the Monroe Institute.
Yes. My physical body is in my bed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
My energy body, my out-of-body body
Right.
is with them experiencing this.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of both? Are you aware of yourself in the
yes.
bed and with them? Okay.
Exactly. It's like that bilocation. One part of me is just observing and documenting. The other part of me is actually living it. And for people who have not had out-of-body experiences, once you really start navigating the non-physical, I shouldn't say you, I have visions that are more real than 3D. You can feel yourself walking in grass. You can smell the scents. You can listen to birds.
Monroe said the same thing in his first book, in Journeys Out of the Body.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But it's true. Well, but if you think about it, Trish, Rob too, sorry, not leaving you out, but when we're out of our physical bodies, we are more closely connected to who we really are, which is spirit. And what we experience in 3D, that is but a shadow of who we really are. So once you learn to really navigate that non-physical sense, you realize things that you don't realize. The senses are so much stronger. But what I found, I'm in my energy body. Mm-hmm. The beings are telling me to relax and to breathe deeply. I do that. And then I find myself in this void, this timeless void, and I'm spinning. And then I come out of the void, and the four beings next to me start to really talk with me, communicate with me more clearly. And they said that I can call them the Galactic Eight. And the first thing I thought was, they don't know how to count. There's 2 here and 2 here. That's when I knew that was 4. I immediately realized this is an error. And he was saying, no, there's 2 at your head and 2 at your feet.
Wow.
And that gave me cold chills. I'm lying flat. I'm not really looking around that much. And then I thought, oh my goodness. And they told me that they were there to help protect me. And I knew immediately that these are beings with tremendous knowledge. I don't know what they are. Are they from another galaxy? Are they us in the future? But, I don't know. I'll probably never know. But I did know that they were specialists and they had very highly sophisticated skills. Now, after learning there's 8 of them, I start looking around. And over on my left side, I look up. And there's like a platform with a lot of beings. And these beings are speaking to me. And they're basically observing. They're going through the Galactic 8. But they're saying they're the Council of Light. And they are just observing me. Then the 8 beings next to me look up, and I look to see what they're looking at. And Rob, this is something I saw with my physical eyes. I saw a green dot floating in my room, in my bed right above my bed, with my physical eyes. And that green dot comes and lands right here on that jugular notch. Of your neck, and it goes all the way down my chest and stops at my pubic bone. And then I realized, oh, that's a laser. It did not hurt. It did not freak me out, which surprises me. And they were examining me, but I was okay with that. I consented to it. Next, another green laser comes across. So where they cross, there's a green dot, and it starts, I could actually hear it cliff when it crossed, the horizontal and the vertical one, and it starts like beating like a heart. Well, think about the heart chakra. It's green. It's green.
Yeah.
And then the beings told me, and there's more to it than this, but they told me that this was like a homing beacon, and they could find me and I could locate them using that beacon. Now, a few minutes later, everything just kind of melted and faded, and I found myself back in my bed, in my physical body at the Monroe Institute. But something happened a couple days later. I woke up a little before 4 because I had rolled over on the headphones. We had these huge, comfy headphones that we use for the meditation, and it must have fallen off the shelf, and I rolled over on it, and there was just this pain right at my hip, right above my left hip and right below my left hip and my left rib cage. So I sit up to grab and remove this headphone, and I see with my physical eyes, oh my goodness, 3 long, green, bony fingers withdrawing from me.
Withdrawing?
I mean, I'd hit cold, withdrawing. And what I realized was, I immediately knew this. I had been with the Galactic 8, and they were returning me to the safety of my bed. I have no memory, no recollection of what happened. Maybe I will one day. But this really was an eye-opener for me, because I realized I felt this. This was physical. This is what woke me up. And if I had any kind of doubts about the experience, well, it was just in and out of body, so it didn't really happen. It's like, no. I popped out of bed, and because it's like, there's no way I'm going back to sleep after that.
Weren't you freaked out to see weren't you freaked out? I think I would have walked screaming.
I was freaked out, but like immediately I knew they were returning me. They weren't trying to take me. But what really freaked me out is it made me realize the event that had happened a few days before was true. It was real. That's the part that freaked me out. There's as many years as I've been channeling, and I know how true many things are that sound bizarre, and then I end up getting documentation and it validates what happened is true. That's what freaked me out. It's like, I did not make this up. I knew I hadn't, but it's like, that's the part that really freaked me out.
That was your evidence.
Like, wow.
So,
yes.
Candice, your first experience, the initial experience, was that actually when you were staying at the Monroe Institute, or was it before?
The close encounter. Okay. All right. At Monroe, I was at a program that's a 6-day program.
Right.
So all of this happened during the program.
Okay. It was during the program.
Monroe.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Has there been anything since you left?
Yes.
Other than Ian and the butterfly?
Yes. Right. Once I got home, I started transcribing everything from my iPhone, and I was getting more and more messages. Then one day I had a dream, and I've got a pretty extensive dream journal. I can remember my dreams pretty well. And in this dream, I saw the Galactic 8, and they turned their backs to me. And when they did, they unzipped the back of their head, I would say at the top of their head, all the way down to like their shoulder blades. And then their body fell away. And I looked, and what I could see was this cluster, this conglomeration of bones, of just skeletal structures. And then I had this aha moment. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's why they all look alike. I couldn't tell them apart. That green skin that they had, those almond-shaped eyes with no pupils, that's a spacesuit. Their
Interesting.
real self was something else that could not function in that space where we were connecting.
Huh.
And and I haven't read about ETs. I don't know if that's another theory or not. I'm just going on
Right.
my experience, but it was like, wow. And then I had another message. Well, I mean, I've had several, but one was they told me, and this was also in a dream state. I woke up and I knew I had been with the Galactic 8, and they told me to contact a woman, somebody I know. She used to live in Naples. She lives in Tennessee now. And I had her, contact information. So I texted her and I said, I had this like really strange dream, and it was actually from these aliens, and I just wanted to like let you know. And she's psychic, so she knows it's okay to say strange things like that. She picked up the phone and called me. She was not in Tennessee. She was in Mount Shasta.
Oh,
and
wow.
she was getting ready to go up in the mountains to look for ETs. And it's interesting because she was never interested in ETs either. But little by little, information is still trickling in from them. And although they've said that I can connect with them when I want to, I just haven't done that yet. I like to just kind of wait and see what happens.
Process
naturally.
everything.
Yeah. So what was the reaction of other people at the Monroe Institute at the workshop? You talked about this publicly to everybody, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Monroe is great. Their trainers are very professional, and they know that it's important to honor everybody's experience.
Mm-hmm.
They don't judge. It's a very safe place to share. Now, as soon as this was over, my first thought was, I'm not telling anyone. This is bizarre. But then, I just felt like that was not real genuine. I felt like, as uncomfortable as I felt with sharing it with others, it's like, it's my truth. I need to share it. So I did. And everyone was very accepting. And what's interesting is later, a couple of people came up to me and had these private conversations. They were really interested in ETs, and they shared their experience with me. So I'm glad I did share it, because it was my truth, and I just needed to tell that story. And I knew Monroe was a safe place to do that.
What's your daughter think?
Well, my daughter, I love my daughter. She may not always embrace the things that I embrace, but when she needs me, she does. Like, for example, she does some coaching. She's an athletic trainer, an athletic director at local high school. And if one of her kids has an injury or something, she'll say, "Hey, Mom, can you do some long distance Reiki with them?" So when it's real convenient, she does know that I'm connected. They don't know what to think of this, but they accept me. They, meaning, my daughter and my son-in-law, they accept me for who I am. But it's interesting because I didn't even tell my sisters about this until I was ready to produce the book. And then the book, the lady that does my book cover, she's excellent. She has a picture of an alien hand reaching down. Oh my gosh, Rob and Trish, the picture that she chose is exactly what I saw. Jeez. Three fingers, green. It was just, it was so uncanny.
That is cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So when you obtain these messages, how can you I think people who are skeptics might wonder now, how can you distinguish it from being outside of you versus your own conscious mind that's giving you information? Is there some way of distinguishing the two?
Well, good question. First of all, if you're skeptic and you don't believe this, that's okay. I am not here to make anyone believe what my experiences are. My experiences are my experiences. And when you are ready to look into things that aren't within your belief system, you might change how you feel. But first of all, you have to believe what you want to believe. You have to accept what you accept. Don't believe me just because I say it happened.
Right.
But the information as it comes in with very specific words. Like I said earlier, it's like dictating. Air quotes, I hear what punctuation you use when to start a new paragraph. I remember with Chiron, for example, I saw a whiteboard and I saw the name written, so I knew how it was written, and then I knew how it was pronounced. Sometimes the information comes to me in a complete download. I had like a 30 or 40-minute message from White Buffalo once that I wrote about in Stampede. I sat down and just started typing as fast as I could. But the information is like, a sweater. If you pull a piece of yarn from the sweater and the more you pull it, it starts unraveling. It unravels like the message as fast or as slowly as you pull it. Sometimes I just know the message when I just know something. And I used to doubt that, but I've learned to trust it. But I know the information is not coming from me because it's not my language. It's not my words. And quite often like this, it's not my subject material. I would have never wanted to have a contact with green aliens.
Okay.
With green fingers.
But, I can remember once I had a message from Kuan Yin. Now, before I started channeling, all of this was new to me. I had no idea who Kuan Yin was. She's like the Buddhist counterpart to Mother Mary. Like, I didn't know that. But then when I Googled her later, it's like, oh, you're kidding. Same thing with Chiron. I knew nothing about Chiron. And even Trish, you even did read my chart for me because you know all about Chiron. But most of the information when I started channeling was brand new to me, not on a topic I knew. So I knew it didn't come from me. But after a while, I had hundreds of pages of messages, and so many of them I could verify. So I learned to trust.
Yeah.
And
So
that made all the difference.
Yeah. So when you receive these messages, are you aware of a particular personality that's sending them? I mean, you mentioned Kuan Yin and a couple of others. Is there one particular entity that messenger? Does it vary, or how's that work?
You mean like Jane Roberts and Seth, where it was one? Is that what you're?
Yeah, like Seth was entity, but I mean, when I read your book, it seems like it's information more than personality, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like the first messengers that came in are the muses within. They speak in this beautiful prose, this poetic language. And so I can recognize them. It was a long time before they told me who they were. And I don't know. I don't usually ask, who are you? I just figure if the information is important, they'll tell me. Like Chiron said, White Buffalo Calf woman said who she was, but a lot of them don't. And that's okay with me because it's the message that they give me that is so beautiful. Like angels, for example. For most angels, when they come in, sometimes I get names, but, again, not always. But generally with angels, I usually know when they're coming because it's like, boo-hoo, the tears just start. Just like I got a little teary-eyed when I was telling you about the coincidence at the beginning of the show with the angels, because when they surround me, there is so much love and compassion. It's just almost overwhelming. When seraphim angels come in, I always see a purple mist. When Metatron comes in, I see Metatron in a Merkaba. Now, that's a star tetrahedron, so a pyramid one pointing up, one pointing down, and they're combined. When I first met him, air quotes, met him and had messages from him, I had no idea what a Merkaba was, and I had no idea that he was associated with it. But some of them come in such a way that you know who they are without knowing their name. But it's easy to, I'm pretty energy sensitive now. It's pretty easy to understand when there's a new messenger. Just like the beginning of this message, when all of a sudden everything shifted with this experience. And it's like, whoa, what is this? I know this is different.
Yeah.
Weird. This would make a great movie.
We'll let you be the star in it. Okay?
Yeah, right. I'd totally freak out if if I saw green fingers coming out of my back. I
thought I would too, but immediately I had that knowing that they were returning me, and that made all the difference.
Yeah,
now,
sure
I
did.
mean, I obviously didn't sleep anymore for that night, but the whole thing has amazed me that I was not really freaked out and frightened, because one of the messages that I got afterwards, once I got home and started processing, which I'm still processing, is, I wrote a whole chapter in my first book about cosmic contacts. And many times they did not show themselves in physical form. So what makes me think they weren't these green figures with almond-shaped eyes? Maybe they were. And so I've discovered that they are a subset of my messengers. And I asked, like, why now? And why is this so different? And they said, I've grown and developed, and that I was actually ready for a communication like this, which is much more interactive than what I've had before.
Also, I mean, if you have that certainty that they're not there to hurt you, I think that makes a difference.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So could it be that these beings are both physical and non-physical, like light beings, and sometimes move into the physical and out? I've heard this is the future evolution of mankind into that direction.
You know what? That makes perfect sense, because if you think of their green skin as a spacesuit, which is what they told me, they are from another dimensional space. Now, we know that time is only of the Earth plane. So are they us way in the future? I mean, who knows? Are they just in are they in a far dimension? But when they come into that interface, that space where I am in my energy body during this meditative state, and then I think I had their assistance with becoming a rocket and shooting up to an even finer and more subtle energy space, then they move down into an area where we can communicate. The whole thing has been just so fascinating for me. It really has. And I wish I knew the answers, but I don't.
Well, you're still learning, and it sounds like it's still a journey. So
it is.
Had you been to the Monroe Institute before this? That your experience with the aliens, and
I've been.
And had you experienced out of body experiences there?
Yes, I've had. I've gone to many programs at Monroe, and I first started going, and I realized, as I said earlier, it's like, oh, this is so easy. You don't have to do anything but put the headphones on, and the frequencies take you where you need to go. And each time I would go to a program, I would come back a little different, a little changed. Now, I'm still going as that clinically based, very pragmatic psychologist, but it's like, okay, I'm still open to see what happens. But each program, my baseline changed until I just reached this tipping point. And I went to one program and called Lifeline, where we actually helped people transition.
Right.
People who have died, but they're still in their energy form and they haven't made their complete transition. And we've helped them transition to the other side. And when I did that program, 2 weeks later, I came home and I started channeling because I had reached a tipping point. And another thing is I used to think in terms of an out-of-body experience as the typical floating above your body, turning around, seeing yourself in the bed, touching the ceiling, going through a door. But I realized what I was experiencing was an out-of-body experience in many of the things I was doing at Monroe. It was not the typical, okay, walk through the door,
Right.
Of your bedroom. But I was in such an expanded interdimensional space that I was witnessing and experiencing cosmic consciousness. I took one program called OBE Intensive, and William Buellman, before he retired from Monroe, gave this program. And he was saying that he no longer, of course, he's like one of the world's leading authorities on initiating out-of-body experiences. And he told the group, he said, I no longer just get out of bed, or get out of my body and go in my neighborhood and check what's going on. He said, I go out in the cosmos. I go further out. So what happened with me is I was having out-of-body experiences without actually realizing that's what they were.
Why did he retire?
But,
I remember
I
about
don't
that.
know. He just, he's still doing some things privately, and I follow him on Facebook, and we still connect. He's
we're trying to
he's doing some online courses too.
We're trying to get him to come on the podcast, but he did say he's retired.
Yeah.
When we asked.
Oh.
So oddly enough, Trish and I have been to the Monroe Institute, but not
as visitors.
As visitors, not as a program, because we're visiting friends Nancy Scooter McMonigo and Joe McMonigo, and I don't know what we were doing exactly, but Scooter took us. She was.
I remember. Megan was looking at the UVA. Remember, she was looking to see if she.
That's right. Yeah,
Virginia.
Right. That's why we were there. Yeah, and we'd known the McMonigos for a few years, and so Scooter gave us a tour of the place. We saw these little sleeping rooms. They look kind of small.
They are small. They are small. They're called check units, which is an acronym, CHEK, Controlled Holistic Environmental Chamber. It's for those who haven't been there. It's like a single size bed, but it's like a sleeping berth on a train because they're built into the wall, and then you have these really dark curtains that you close, and all light is gone. But there's a couple lights if you know what lights on in the room, but that's where you do all of your experiences, your meditations in that check unit, and it cuts out any sound and light, and it really helps you get into that meditative state.
One thing I remember from that experience there was that there's a kind of an unusual big rock in the backyard of the facility there. What is that?
Oh my goodness. It is like a 6 foot tall crystal that came from Brazil. It was actually much
we have a
larger
picture of it,
than
Rob.
that.
Yeah, I know we do. Yeah. Okay, so that was him imported. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Right.
It was brought in from Brazil, and then they dropped it or something, and it broke into 3 pieces. One person, I don't know who it is, has 1/3 of it. There's one at Nancy Penn Center at Monroe, and then up the mountain, there's Roberts Mountain, which is another retreat.
Right.
That's where Bob Monroe's house actually is. So that other part of the crystal is up there. And it's so interesting. I'll share with you all later since, for a podcast, you can't see this. But when I was there, for this program, this NDE Spectrum, I always go out to the crystal, lots of good energy. And I asked for an orb to come and land in my hand. I didn't get it on my hand, but I have a picture of like a 4-foot orb that's coming
Wow.
over me. And with the person I'm holding hands with, we're right there together, bringing in the energy. It's coming down over us. But a lot of like magical things happen around that crystal because the intention of the people there, and
Right.
plus I think it's on a ley line, and crystals are wonderful. They draw in energy. So being right there. Oh, and Monroe Institute is actually on Crystal Mountain. They say the foundation of the mountain is all crystal. So it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there in the mountains too. It's just a very great environment. Yeah.
And by the way, Candice, if you can share that picture with us, then I can insert it when we do eventually get the video up on YouTube. So.
Oh, great! I will do that.
Yeah. John, you got anything you want to add? Or
Fascinating.
I've just been enjoying the conversation as usual, and I think you guys have covered it.
Okay, I have
really,
a question.
Yeah.
Now, do dogs go out of body?
I got one right here.
I know that's what
I mean,
they definitely
think about it. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think that's what I figure. I mean, because sometimes I see our dogs are just kind of like they're meditating is what they're doing. You know?
But you know what? Trish, they're so much more intuitive than we are.
They really are.
And they're so much more energy sensitive. Now, I like to do this. I like to get my energy going, and I make a little ball of energy. And if you're around a cat, then you take that energy and they'll play with it, or
they will. That's true. I've seen that.
Yeah. So, because they are not stuck in their brains analyzing like we are, they're all heart, they're all instinct. So I'm sure they go out of body.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they did not.
Yeah, I would too.
And Nigel, our golden retriever, he's interesting. He sleeps through the podcast, but he always seems to know, maybe it's a different tone of our voice or something, when we're coming to the end, because he gets up and walks over and starts nudging me, time to go to the dog park. So,
that's sweet.
Yeah. So
Oh,
It's been just great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you again, Candice.
Now, what's your next book?
Oh, thank you. Oh, you know, I'm just trying to survive Ian right now. And by the way, I was halfway through your book when Ian hit, so I will finish it and do a review. Oh, Trish, I saw the review you did online. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love your book.
Yeah.
Your books are great.
Thank you.
So I can't wait to read your next one.
Me, I can't wait to find out what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me either. Maybe you should be teaching other people how to do what you do.
No, she does. She does online workshops.
Yeah, I know she does. Yeah. But is that the same?
Go ahead.
What I'm doing now, on my YouTube is, I've had people call or text me or email me and say, would you do, can you do counseling with me or can you do coach me? And it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. If I hadn't been a psychologist, maybe I would, but it's like, no, you got to have insurance and all this. So I started a YouTube series just on consciousness, trying to just share with people what I do and what works for me. So I'm kind of doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you did it. Well, I just didn't know if you did it in person or,
No, I don't do anything in person. I just stay home and wander around.
Stay at home and talk to people.